And what I figured out was there's these 3 decisions. Most decisions are made unconsciously. And like 48% of what we do, depending on which doctor you read, is about habit. What's great about habit is you don't have to think. What's bad about habit is you don't change, right? And so most people make these decisions unconsciously, but what are they? 1, you decide every moment of your life, you're making a decision consciously or unconsciously what to focus on. So if you focus on the worst scenario, of course you're gonna feel sick to your stomach, right? And then you find out it's not true and you're fine, right? Focus equals feeling, but there's patterns of focus. So if I asked your audience right now, or all you guys, what do you think most people focus on more? What they have or what's missing?
The latter.
What's missing? And including super achievers. Like some of the biggest achievers are always focusing on what's missing because they're always trying to get to the next level. So what happens? As a result, when you're always focused on what's missing, you cannot sustain happiness. It has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. It's just like software. So you always look at what's missing, so you never feel fulfilled or alive, right? And so you keep being on the hamster wheel trying to do more, and it's never enough. That's what people end up pushing and pushing and pushing, and you see them burn out, they have everything, and they're miserable. Second pattern. And by the way, we all do both. It's just where do you live more? And most people focus on what's missing. Do you think most people focus on what they can or can't control?
Probably the latter.
Can't is most people. Now, in my events, when I ask this to 15,000 people, most people focus on what they can control. That's why they're there, right? They came to take control of their body, their mind, or their business, or whatever, right? But for the average population, and during COVID, there's so much you can't control. It's easy to be focused on what you can't control, right? So what do you think happens to somebody who's constantly focusing on what's missing and constantly focusing on what they can't control? They're gonna be pissed or angry, overwhelmed, or stressed or depressed. Most people who are unhappy and frustrated, which unfortunately is the majority of humans, most people are not happy and thrilled and have a great body and a great relationship. We all can, but very few people do because they're focused on the past, and usually they can't change it. Or they focus on a future that they're concerned about. And either way, they're stressed. So I ask people, I got 20,000 people in a stadium, and say, how many of you know somebody who takes antidepressants and they're still depressed? And 85% of the hands go up. So the question is, why is that? Well, on the side it says create suicidal thoughts. That's a clue, right? But it numbs you, right? That's what it does. It doesn't change the source of the problem, which is you're constantly focusing on what you can't control, what's missing, perhaps the past, just as 3 examples. But the point is, when you change those decisions, like the first decision is focus, then the second decision is, what does it mean? The minute you focus on something, you gotta, what does it mean? So you wake up and feel like, what does it mean? Well, I effed up last night, or it's the end of the world,
like
or it doesn't matter, right? The meaning creates your life. But when you said emotional home, what I learned is that people have an emotional home. Like some people, I'm sure you know, no matter what happens, they're pissed off. Or no matter what happens, they're worried. They worry about other people and themselves. Or you know somebody that's not funny, but they think they are. And no matter what happens, they have a good time, right? So the meanings we select change how we feel instantly. And because we have habits of meanings, people have habits of emotion where they kind of live. So you see people in some part of the country and you feel for them, like they come by and a cyclone destroys their home or a flood or whatever. And then you see them picking up what's left of their life and you pray for them, you care for them. And then 3 years later it happens again, and 3 years it happens again, and you go like, why don't they move? Because it's what they know.
Right.
And we have an emotional home that we rarely move from, that we find a way to get back to. But if you change these 3 patterns, what you focus on, what things mean, finding empowering meaning, and then what you do is controlled by how you feel. If you're pissed, you're gonna behave differently than if you're feeling good. So those 3 patterns literally control your life. Most people, those patterns are unconscious, so they keep experiencing life the same way.
Anytime you're feeling upset of any sort is the result of the meaning you associate to an expectation. So for example, how many of you have ever had an expectation that didn't get met, but you got over it a lot quicker and you didn't really link it to anybody else? You're just like, well, I'm disappointed, it didn't work out. How many remember a time like that? But other times you've been upset and you stayed upset, and usually it's because you've anchored the upset as the reason you didn't get what you want is someone else. And when you think it's someone else, you tend to stay upset a little longer. Make sense? So we want to move beyond that. So to change your life, to change your communication, what you really got to do is change some of your belief systems about what can create upset in your life.
If you can get yourself to love to do the stuff you hate to do, then there's no limit to the success you can have in your life. If you can take the things that you're afraid you'd have to do to succeed in your business or to succeed in your life or to succeed in your relationship, there are things everybody doesn't want to do. And the more focused you are on how you're not going to do that, the more life seems to bring those things up for you and makes them barriers. What human beings can do is amazing. What they will do is usually disappointing. It's not because we're not capable of it. It's because we don't have new actions because we get in certain emotional states that dominate us, like anxiety, like fear of failure, right? Like the fear of the loss of your mother as an example. So if you're in a state of fear, you're gonna behave very differently and get very different results. That's what that means right there. Then if you were in a place of being courageous or bold or warm or connected or playful, any of those. So the most important key to changing your life in any situation is to change results, you gotta change behavior, but to change behavior, you gotta change the emotional state you're in. Now, how do you do that when you don't feel like it, right? Or it feels overwhelming? What you need to do is make a radical change in the way you use what we call your physiology. It's a big word, it just means the way you use your physical body. But if I said to you, there's a depressed person behind curtain number 1 over there, and I'll donate $100,000 to your best charity, your favorite charity, if you could describe what they're like physically. Tell me what's their posture like if they're depressed, you tell me.
Slumped over.
Slump, where's their head? Where's their head?
Down.
Down. Are they breathing full or shallow?
Shallow.
And are they talking really fast or more slow?
Slow.
Loud or quiet?
Probably quiet.
You're all saying the same thing. How's that possible? Because you've all practiced this crap before, haven't you? No. But here's what you can find. If you take that same person and you change the tempo at which they move, you bring their shoulders back and change their breathing pattern, if they make a faster gesture, if they speak more rapidly, it fires off a different biochemistry in you. And in that state, you will take radically different actions. And about 3 years ago, Harvard finally did a study where they proved what I did worked, and they called it these power positions. What the science found was that you will absolutely increase your testosterone by 20%, man or woman. You'll drop your cortisol, which as you know is the stress hormone, by 22%, and you're 33% more likely to take action if you wouldn't have before because fear would have stopped you. Yes, I have people move, use their voice, make radical changes in their body. It produces more certainty in you, and that certainty gets you to take different actions. So if you are in a situation, you think of the worst scenario, your mom dying, no, my business goes under, I never achieve at the level I need to, all the things I have anxiety about. The minute you focus on them, you go into those states of fear, and then you behave fearful, and you get lousy results. And when you get lousy results, what does it do to your brain? You go, see, I told you I couldn't do this. It becomes this negative loop. So how do we break out of it? We change our focus by asking better questions. I have this deal with myself called priming. Every day, I say, look, you gotta have 10 minutes for yourself. If you don't have 10 minutes for yourself, you don't have a life. It is, I do this process, and it's 10 minutes, I put some music on, I do this massive change in my breathing, so it radically changes the way I feel, and then I do this 3-step process. First, I do 3 minutes of gratitude, where I think of 3 things I'm really grateful for, and I associate, I don't think of it over there, I feel it. And the reason is, when you're grateful, you can't be worried. You can't be fearful. When you're grateful, you can't be angry. And anger and fear are what screw people up most in their relationships, in their life, in their business. So I wire myself. I was saying to you that most people want to be happy, but their habit is to be worried or pissed off or frustrated or stressed. And so they've got a highway to stress and they got a dirt road to happiness. So I wire myself. I've got a highway to gratitude, which changes all your emotions. And then I do a 3-minute process of kind of a prayer for my family and friends. And then I do a 3-minute process of the top 3 things I want to accomplish. I see it as done, and I feel it. I'm done in 10 minutes. So sometimes I go 20. So if we change the state you're in, just by changing our focus or the way we use our bodies strongly. Now, if you say, I'm gonna change my body, like I have people do firewalks sometimes or skydiving, and you go, they're scared, and they go, Mr. Robbins said that I should change my physiology, okay? Oh shoot, it didn't work. It's gotta be a radical change, right? Here's my question for all of you. If you focus on what you want, life has probabilities, there's no guarantees, but you increase them when you change your state. And that's really what this is all about.